Have you ever wanted to give your all to something? To put everything on the line? Body, soul, mind. Even if I told you that achieving your dream would cripple you, would you still do it? If I told you no one would appreciate it if you achieved your dream, would you still do it? If at the end of that long road, all that awaited you was a broken body and a lonely life, would you still be as eager? Personally speaking, I've never been one who relied on others for validation, but even still, I would be hesitant to sacrifice all quality of life just to achieve a dream of mine. After all, what if after I've made that sacrifice, I found something else that I would like to be my dream instead? But for those of you who pursue the arts, that sacrifice might be worth it. A magnum opus that carves your name into history and ensures you will be remembered long after your time has come and gone. Sure, plenty of people just wish to get paid, but just as many pour their heart and soul into what they create. And that leads us to the performance Arknights has prepared for us now. Act or Die. Arknights' take on a murder mystery, so you won't be getting spoilers on who the killer is. That's probably a lie. I am known for many things, but subtlety is not one of them. Regardless, this event takes us back to Colombia, but it's not for mad science this time. And so, let's hop right into this discussion. But before that, a message from our sponsor. No, it's not someone offering to give me money, it is in fact someone far more important. Arknights' local Phantom enjoyer.
True fans love Lucian in all his forms. Max out your Tragodia, and make sure to max out your Phantom too, or else someone will be hiding in your walls tonight.
Thank you, Uriel. Very cool. Not at all intimidating. Now, for real this time, act or die. And you better believe we shall not be slandering Phantom in any shape or form, cause Uriel is not one to be trifled with. As always, we'll start off with some lore. Hopefully not too much, cause spoiler alert, I want to give you a primer on all the characters later. Thankfully, there isn't a lot you need to know before jumping into this event. The Crimson Troop, the great mastermind behind all of Phantom's suffering. It is a lovable group of actors and assassins that travel Terra at the mysterious whims of the Troop Master, Tragodia. Originally just attentive actors, the troupe rose to prominence by following the Troop Master's vision of a perfect performance. Be it as mysterious performers or stage play with no credited writer, their touch has been felt across all of Terra's entertainment industries. As a young child, Phantom was taken in by the troupe and trained to be their blood diamond, a master of the arts and assassination. During this time, Phantom would stab himself with an Originium shard to get infected. This would not only deepen his understanding of negative emotions to improve his acting career, but also result in Best Cat Miss Christine appearing before him. Following that point, his arts could kill, as infection allowed his singing to kill those who listened to it. Rather useful thing to have for an assassin. Eventually his moral compass would cause him to kill the other members of the Crimson Troop. That and him no longer viewing them as true practitioners of the arts. Regardless, even after killing the Troop Master, he continued to search for him, and that search has led him to Colombia, specifically Rankwood. The Crimson Troop have prepared the stage for Phantom and the Troop Master's reunion, and what a stage it is. Rankwood is the heart of Colombia's film industry. It's just Arknights Hollywood, with most, if not all, of the abuse that image brings to your mind. If you believe that Hollywood is a good thing to aspire for, I hope that growing up will enlighten you as to the horrors, but until then, just take my word for it. From its humble beginnings, it was a hub for Colombian propaganda, because of course the capitalist dystopia would co-opt art to spread their agenda, primarily by making the pioneer system out to be this noble calling and not a system to allow a legal form of slavery. Despite that, over time, Rankwood became the heart of Terra's entertainment industry. Its mobile city plates are rented out for filming, allowing those with enough money to take their film to the location of their dreams. So long as you finish filming on time, cause if not, the plate is programmed to return automatically. From film festivals to script auctions, the entire economy of Rankwood is based around churning out new films, and as such, they require plenty of workers. Even the infected are allowed to work freely in the film industry, just make sure you paid your insurance company. Despite the obvious abuses, there is no shortage of new victims moving into Rankwood. The city's glamour, as I should have made clear by now, is nothing but a facade. Just like the real-world entertainment industry, beneath the surface, the industry is fueled by consuming the up-and-coming talent. You better hope you survive the hazing as well, cause unless you have a nice coworker, any young talented actor is ending up with trauma. Or dead. You better remember that because it's going to be very relevant later. With that being said, there is a fuck ton of characters in this event. Not in a super deep and interesting way, but this character is relevant and I want to introduce them now kind of way. So some of the following characters are getting a paragraph, and some of them are getting a description. No, that's a lie. None of these characters get a paragraph. At least not before you hear the story. So, let's introduce the victims of today's slasher film. Miss Christine is the beautiful cat that follows Lucien around as his guiding moonlight. She's a beast lord, so of course she is the best character in this event and the most important. Not only did she help Phantom get out of a cult, but she is also super cute and insightful. Is she consuming the emotions of Phantom for sustenance? Yes, but it doesn't hurt him and she deserves to have it. She simply refuses to talk to 99% of people. As a beast lord, she can of course talk, but chooses not to, and I have to respect that. Also, she canonically has a petting ticket service, which is just peak world building. Lapland, as the representative of the Signori de Lupi, also gets a special petting discount because she shuts Zaro up for Miss Christine. Always good to be putting that bum in his place. Lucien, also known as Phantom, also known as Tragodia now, is the protagonist of this event. He doesn't need much of an introduction cause I kinda already did that, but he's cool. He still has to come after Miss Christine as this is really her event. Let it never be said that I am not biased towards my favorite characters. Greta is the producer of this film that we're about to witness crash and burn, and overall kind of a terrible person. At least it's biblically accurate to real life producers. Steven is the director and unfortunately has been in contact with the God of Inspiration. Gonna spoil it now, this is what he refers to the Troop Master as. So that's a good sign. Tippy is the head of background designs on set. Also, she's the granddaughter of Jara. You know, that super cool person from Lone Trail. Technically, her op files say Jara is like a grandmother to her, but found family is already a big enough theme in the game, so I'm counting it. It's not super relevant, but it's cool to know. Moira is a normal girl trying to break her way into the industry as a prop assistant. Her older sister is also working in the film industry. Yep, nothing else is worth commenting on here. She is a perfectly well-adjusted young woman. Melanie is a veteran actress and plays the leading role in Steven's film. Although her limelight in Rankwood has passed, she is hopeful that this film will launch her back into the public consciousness. Also, she was the second most popular actress in Rankwood behind Jara in her younger years. Another casual Ryan Labs related W. Shelly is a tired goat woman and the production coordinator for this crew. She is struggling with trauma from an accident on a previous film set, and it makes her rather sympathetic. I am in no way swayed by my love for goat women in this statement. She is definitely not a horrible person deserving nothing but blame. Michael is the lead actor for this film and a bit of a womanizer, and by a bit I of course mean he throws himself at any woman with a pulse. His girlfriend Marion, the crew's costume designer, does not appreciate the proclivities of her boyfriend, but at least she won't have to put up with them for much longer. Abner is the cameraman and overall he's pretty cool, mostly just along for the ride. Dalton is a washed up veteran actor. Don't worry about him though, he is not long for this world. Not even saying that's a spoiler, you'll understand in about 3 minutes. Also, cause I'll feel bad if I don't mention them, Shalem is predominantly featured as a character in flashbacks during this event. Playwright 2 shares this fate. And of course, the last character I'll introduce is the Troop Master. I'm not going to give you any details on him, but he's pretty cool. And with introductions out of the way, time for the story proper. Lucien and his longtime companion, Miss Christine, have spent the years since the events of IS-2, hunting after the Troop Master. During this time, they travelled all over Terra searching for clues. Lucien knows that the Crimson Troop is no more, but his instinct tells him that the mastermind remains. So despite killing the Troop Master once, he searches Terra for a way to put him down permanently. During his travels, he finds himself in the city of Rankwood at a script auction. While at the auction, he meets a woman by the name of Greta. She's a big-time movie producer looking for her next big film. As such, she purchases the debt of Lady DuPont for an exorbitant fee. Greta takes an interest in Lucien and offers him a position in her movie. Lucien takes one look at the script, sees the Crimson Troop symbol in the gaps between the pages, and agrees to accompany her. The Death of Lady DuPont is a historical tragedy set in the early days of Colombia. It is about the love between Lady DuPont and 3 brothers of the Rockefeller family. Melanie will be playing our protagonist against Michael, who will be playing all 3 of the brothers. The director Steven isn't very happy with the stiff performances the two are giving, and lets his frustrations be known. No doubt he can also sense that in the future his drip will be stolen too. Melanie and Michael continue with filming, although Michael gives a less than convincing performance and gets chewed out by the woman. She berates him for his womanizing and insults his girlfriend Marion. Marion is just chilling while all this goes down, so she catches a stray. She deserves it though, I can't lie. This puts filming on hold for a while. While tensions are cooling down, Miss Christine makes an appearance, causing more mania on set. Tippy and Myra are ordered to catch the cat, but Miss Christine comes to a halt by Myra's side. She stares at the girls with displeasure plastered across her face. Greta shows up barking orders after this and introduces the crew to the new actor, Lucien. It's his film debut, so it will no doubt be memorable. The drunkard actor Dalton stumbles onto set late, with the sexy tired goat lady Shelley dragging him there. The two begin their scene together, and as Lucien puts on the performance of a lifetime, Dalton gets into the swing of it. The scene is meant to end with Lucien's character killing Dalton's, and unfortunately for Dalton, some shenanigans are afoot, as the prop knife is in fact very real, so Lucien slices down the actor to the applause of the onlookers. It doesn't take long for Shelley to realize that something has gone wrong though, when Dalton doesn't get up. Following a hasty investigation, the crew is to begin filming again. Greta is running a tight ship and will not be paying extension fees. The prop master is fired for the accident and Myra gets a promotion. Steven is sent off by Greta to finish writing the script, and Shelley tries to raise her concerns to Greta but is stonewalled by her. Tippy brushes off Dalton's death as an accident and congratulates her friend on her promotion. Despite Greta's insistence on things being fine, Shelley continues to cause a mess around the set, pissing off Abner with her constant rechecks. On a previous film Greta produced, a young up-and-coming actress, Laura, died during a wire rig accident, and Shelley is worried that Dalton's death is connected back to the death of that young actress. Many of the same people who worked on that film are working on this one, so Shelley's nerves are shot. Lucien is alone contemplating the death of Dalton and wonders if the troupe was somehow involved. Greta comes to apologize to Lucien for the accident that took place during his first filming, but Lucien, as a trained killer, literally takes no notice of Dalton's death. He has killed before and will kill again. After Greta leaves him, Lucien speaks with Miss Christine, and the Beast Lord serves as a fantastic therapist for our troubled Catman. Following their discussion, Lucien is determined to hunt down the Troop Master once and for all. During another scene between Melanie and Michael, another incident occurs. Shelley is recalling the death of Laura and how she died in a wire rig, just as the duo begin to perform a similar scene. The stress gets to her and she begins hallucinating Laura's death and starts screaming. Due to her hallucinations, she doesn't see a container that is about to fall on top of her. Luckily, Lucien comes to her rescue, which allows Myra to let go of the rope holding up that container. Although she is completely freaked out by her trauma, she blames Miss Christine for startling her. While on break, she is approached by Lucien, who tells her off for blaming Miss Christine. And good on you, Lucien. Don't let her get away with that shit. Shelley apologizes and opens up to Lucien about Laura. Dalton had set up a scene for her in the wire rig as a punishment, and she was left there for hours before the rig gave out and she fell to her death. As she explains this, Lucien spots self-harm marks on her arms. Shelley tells Lucien about the hallucinations, and in a crazy-ass moment in Arknights history, Lucien tells her how to self-harm more effectively in order to combat the hallucinations. I get that he means well, but Lucien, this was not the time. Shelley, as thanks for this, tells Lucien about a strange document she saw in Greta's office. Later that evening, Tippy, Myra, and Shelley are enjoying a nice horror movie marathon. Rather bleak considering recent events, but whatever boats your float. Myra, being the prop nerd she is, comments on the slasher's knife not being a standout prop. In the business, we call this an early warning sign. Before they can enjoy the next movie, Shelley gets a text message and leaves in a panic. She runs into Michael on her way out, and he tries flirting with her. Shelley has no time for him and reminds him what happened to Laura 5 years ago before storming off. Lucien meanwhile searches Greta's office and finds Shelley's mysterious document. Unfortunately, Shelley will not be around to hear about what he found. Shelley arrives at the studio's warehouse where she discovers a worn down wire rig with dry blood on the wires. In her maddened state, she confesses that she hated Laura, that when told of her extra scene gave Laura a used wire rig as punishment. In that moment, she is shoved into the warehouse's cold storage. With the door locked behind her, she embraces her cold grave. Shelley's body is discovered the next morning by the crew, who very reasonably are a bit freaked out by it. In yet another genius IQ move, Lucien reveals to Abner's assistant that he knew about Shelley's habit of self-harm, which doesn't exactly paint him in the best light. But to make up for that, he tells the man about the information he learned last night. Greta is leading them into a catastrophe for the final shot of the movie. As such, the man immediately confronts Greta over this breach of trust. Greta just Chad yeses this when confronted, by the way. Abner accuses her of being completely obsessed with making back the losses she made from the film that Laura died while filming, which Greta takes in stride. She reveals the Laura incident to all the members of the crew, using it as a way to calm the crew down. After pulling that trick off, she corners the man who revealed her plan to learn how he learned of this. Under her intense stare, the man folds immediately, and all Greta can do is stare daggers at Lucien. Michael and Marion don't seem to have any reaction to this suicide as it is being ruled, which pisses off Tippy. The last person who saw Shelley alive was Michael, so Tippy questions the man. He claims that she looked distraught and that he was hoping to comfort her. Marion doesn't take that comment well and begins berating her boyfriend. Marion wastes no time and questions if Michael killed Shelley because she rejected him, which he of course denies. However, as the last person who saw her, Tippy's suspicions are directed at him. This results in Myra revealing the reason Michael was in the studio, to meet her. Tippy is upset that her friend hid her meeting with Michael from her, mainly because she thought Michael would try to take advantage of her. However, her reveal clears Michael of suspicion. All Michael wanted was a way off of the film plate. To cheer her friend up, Tippy offers to watch the film with Myra, an offer she of course accepts. The two enjoy a lovely night of film watching together, with Myra noticing Tippy's insight on the film industry. Tippy promises to protect Myra from the killer and happiness fills the night. Unfortunately, that is not the case for Michael and Marion. From here we learn even more of the death of Laura, from Dalton setting her up to Shelley giving her faulty equipment. Now though we learn of Michael and Marion's part in her death. Michael was being himself and flirting with the young actress, and Marion was not taking it well. As such, Marion takes her frustrations out on Michael. Their relationship has been like this for years, so Marion gives him an ultimatum. No contact with Laura, and I quote, "even if she is dying in front of you." No foreshadowing here because you already know what happened to Laura, but you can imagine how this ends. Michael sees her struggling in the wire rig and intends to help her out. Marion, however, puts a stop to this attempt, and so Laura falls to her death. As much as it pains me to say it, Michael being a good boyfriend here unironically got Laura killed. But alas, punishment comes for them as it did for Shelley and Dalton. Back inside his room, Michael explains to Marion why he was searching for a way off the plate. He's terrified over the seeming vengeance of Laura. He wants Marion to abandon the plate with him. Marion doesn't budge, however. She's invested too much into Michael to let him abandon the film now. What a wonderfully dysfunctional couple they make. They really deserve each other. Seeing that she has no intention of following him, Michael's eyes drift to a fire axe. Unfortunately, if he was planning on using it on her, he doesn't get a chance. The next morning, a crew member discovers the couple hanging from the ceiling, an axe in Michael's neck, and scissors in Marion's head. No denying a killer is on the loose now. At this point, the crew's morale is hanging by strings. You could even say they're hanging like Michael and Marion. Too soon? Alright. To top that off, Stephen has not yet finished the script. His god has failed him, and Melanie is breaking down. As such, Greta makes an announcement regarding everything that has transpired. She sends everyone their remaining wages and disbands the crew. Greta explains her desire to finish the film, her desire for success at all costs, how she tried to bribe her way to success and was disgraced for it. She even kept the death of Laura in her film just to win an award, something she did in spite of Abner's resistance. So killer or not, catastrophe or not, she's finishing this film. Tippy and Myra discuss the murders. Myra suspects that Michael had figured out what was happening, but he's a little dead for them to confirm that theory. As the killer is getting bolder, Myra decides to fulfill Michael's last wish and find a way off the plate. Melanie interrupts the pair to ask Tippy to help her prepare a background for her finale. Myra encourages her friend and heads off to the underground. Melanie and Tippy discuss the actor's past while working on the background. It's filled with references to Jarrah's films. Not saying Melanie was crushing on her, but I am also not saying she wasn't. After all, if a rivalry lasts more than 5 years, you are no longer rivals. You are just dating. Melanie reveals to Tippy how she let her delusions ruin her career and only now was she stepping back into the spotlight. Tippy, seeing her love for acting, invites her to watch some horror films with her after filming is wrapped up. Melanie is a bit taken aback by this, but agrees. Underground, Myra continues her search and finds exactly what she was looking for. Steven struggles to finish the script. His scrawlings prove to be not worth the paper they're written on. Surrounded by his failed drafts, his god of inspiration appears before him. Steven basks in his god's presence. The troop master offers insight into his writings. Steven tells his god about how Laura's death inspired him, how death was a fascinating tool in his writing, most pleasing to a man like the troop master. Death surrounds this film, and the troop master aids Steven in finishing his script. Steven makes Lucien the new lead in his finale, much to the troop master's delight. Their reunion is close at hand now. Lucien, meanwhile, meets with Greta. She isn't pleased with him outing her plans, but she figures he must have had his own reasons for doing it. Considering how calm he is, surrounded by death, she offers him the lead role in her finale. For reference, Lucien is made lead by 2 people independently. Even without knowing that, Lucien realizes that he is in the right place after being offered the position. Greta reveals that she intends to finish this film for Laura. After her death, she was immortalized in her film. She even compensated her family after Laura's death. As such, Greta promises Lucien that after the death of Lady DuPont is released, she will face justice. That night, the killer enters Greta's room. They will punish the woman for their refusal to repent for Laura's death. Finding her sleeping in bed, the killer raises their knife and plunges it into the bed. No confession, no scream, only justice. Unfortunately, it was not Greta in bed. It was Miss Christine. Lucien set a trap for the killer as he had already deduced her identity. If my less than subtle foreshadowing hasn't tipped you off, it's Myra, Laura's little sister. Alas, that statement is a lie. She is not Laura's sister. Greta compensated every one of them personally. Myra is no sister of Laura. Myra's delusions have overcome her mind. Regardless, underground she has altered the autopilot. The plate is headed straight for the catastrophe, and the control panel is destroyed. As the catastrophe hits the plate, Myra escapes from Lucien. Locking herself away in the prop room, she searches her memories of her sister, realizing to her horror that Lucien and Greta were right. Her memories are fake. Panic spreads through the crew as the catastrophe hits the plate. To quell the panic, Abner's assistant spreads word of the killer's identity. Tippy takes this reveal rather poorly, with Melanie comforting the girl. Melanie suggests they join the crew underground, which gives Tippy an idea. In one of the films she watched with Myra, there was a second underground control panel. With her pat set, Tippy takes off to save the plate. Underground, Tippy attempts to reach this panel but is stopped by the panic crew. They treat her as an accomplice and attempt to attack her. Miss Christine comes to her aid, however, devouring the emotions of the crew and quelling their anger. This allows Tippy to reach the control panel and she hits the brakes. A bit too late to avoid the catastrophe, but it's just enough to avoid getting consumed by it. Myra recovers from her mental distress and confronts Lucien. Despite the truth being revealed, she refuses to abandon her vengeance. None other than the troop master implanted this idea in her head, helping her out at her lowest point just like he did to many others. Myra brings the mannequins around her to life and invites Lucien to dance with her. Each mannequin carries the visage of one of her victims, her Originium arts allowing her to transform emotions into energy, and so she uses them now to fight Lucien. Backed into a corner, the Blood Diamond takes to the stage. Lucien sings a song for Myra, and his Originium arts takes effect, defeating the young girl. Miss Christine returns to Lucien's side after he stops singing. She's very disappointed that he had to resort to his arts to strike down Myra, but she will stay by his side regardless. Splitting herself into 2, one who will devour Phantom should he lose himself to madness, and one to torment the Troop Master should he kill Phantom. With that done, Lucien takes the stage across from his teacher. Despite Tippy's life-saving maneuvers, half the plate is still in the storm. Abner and Melanie decide that they can finish the film without their director. Basking in the might of the storm, Melanie rewrites the fate of Lady DuPont, who says she has to die in the climax. Finally, she has the courage to move past Jara and reflects that in the character she is playing. Greta, meanwhile, finds Steven trapped in his office. Steven laments his inability to finish the script despite his god's help. Greta rejects his defeatist attitude and praises his talent as a writer. It wasn't depth that attracted Greta to Lady DuPont, but her potential as a protagonist. With that bit of motivation, Steven abandons his god and debt, rejecting the debt of Lady DuPont and removing its mention from the title. All that's left is to strike down this false god. Lucien's interference stopped the play set in motion by the Troopmaster, the death of an actor, the vengeance of her sister, and all of that to be topped off with the death of the killer in the storm. Although he is not displeased that his greatest student has returned to him, it might have averted the tragedy he had in mind, but there is still time for a different ending. The two review the past few days, from the Troopmaster ensuring Dalton had a real knife and rekindled his passion for acting against Lucien, to Michael and Marion revealing their true character in their last moments, attempting to protect each other from a killer. Their love might not have been the purest form of it, but it was in fact true. Finally, Moira, caught up in a fantasy, serving as the final obstacle between Lucien and his mentor. The man who tormented him stands before him, ageless, undying. Lucien bows to the Troopmaster and tells him of all he has learned. His travels around Terra revealed all of his mentor's past. From Gaul to Iberia, Sami to Laterano, the touch of his plays echo across the land. The legendary god, Tragodia. That is all that is left for this plate, so Lucien sings. Using his Originium Arts in reverse, he protects those on the plate from the storm. You could say he reversed his 1999. Okay, bad joke, but I gotta squeeze my second favorite gotcha in somewhere. Lucien determined the Troopmaster's obsession with death was due to him having never been able to experience it. And so the two do battle, with Lucien piercing Tragodia's heart. Inspired by his student's performance, Tragodia gives Lucien a reward. He transfers his immortality to Lucien, and as such, Lucien ascends as the new Tragodia, and sings to celebrate his birth. 2 months following the serial killings, Tippy travels to a jail in Rankwood. Within she meets with the killer. Moira survived her injuries. Lucien held back to give her a chance to survive. Considering Tippy only manages to meet with Moira on the eve of her trial, which, spoiler alert for Tippy's operator file, confirmed to have resulted in her execution, Lucien should have just gone all out. Rip to a budding Yuri, taken from us too soon. At least the two can make up before the end. Tippy tells her all about the premiere of Lady DuPont. Things went well. With Steven abandoning Tragodia's teaching and Melanie's scene in the storm, they managed to pull things together. A little disjointed, but a good movie nonetheless. Jara even makes an appearance, with Tippy outing her connection to her grandma. Melanie also gets to bury the proverbial beef with her longtime rival. And with Jara's influence, the film is up for awards despite missing the cutoff. And despite the plot and themes being a little difficult for the critics to digest, they leave the theatre content. A real love it or hate it film. In the end, Lucien, Shalem, and playwright remain behind. Lucien informed the two of the end of the Crimson Troop. They are finally free. Lucien, however, has been given a new path by the Troopmaster, and he will walk down it. Bring it joy or despair, fulfillment or emptiness. This is his pact, and as such, playwright and Shalem offer to accompany him down this road. So a new troop is formed, one free of Tragodia's twisted will, one that exists to truly embody the arts. And that, my friends, is Act or Die, a story filled with plenty of twists and turns. It dares to ask the bold question, what if Hollywood was filled with terrible people? I know, I too would prefer my escapist fantasy to not reflect real life as accurately, but I assume in Act or Die's defense, it only slightly exaggerated the horrors of life on a movie set. In all seriousness though, I really enjoyed this event. It's paced fantastically. There was never a dull chapter, be it a murder, a setup for a murder, or the response to a failed murder. Every node here is filled to the brim with content. As a point of comparison, despite the Master's Travels being filled to the brim with relevant content, it, like many Arknights events, suffer from dead air in their story node. Something that Act or Die, with its incredible pacing, manages to avoid for the most part. Also, for once I can say with sincerity that a chapter node never drags on past an obvious ending point, which is a trap I can definitely accuse other Arknights events of falling into. You can't tell because I just left them out of my summary, but we are constantly getting flashbacks to Phantom's life in the troop over the course of this event. They're not too important because we pretty much know everything that happened in them already, but it's a very nice touch for the pacing side of things. And gives Phantom a lot more relevance in this event because he was mostly just aura forming off screen. With all that said though, I want to talk about my two standout characters now. Lucian, although I suppose you should call him Tragodia now, was a pretty fun character to follow. I was curious how they were going to treat him in an actual dedicated event, and I was not disappointed. Despite being an integrated strategies enjoyer, I can say I love their storytelling. Not because it doesn't give a complete story, but because I prefer our traditional visual novel style. They managed to keep some of Lucian's mystique as a character by not focusing on him too heavily, which was also a nice touch. He spent the entire event up until the last moment in a different outfit from his altar, so I was worried that we were never going to get a chance to show off that new grip. It was a misplaced fear, as he was gifted it by the troop master when he became Tragodia, and speaking of that, Lucian is an ageless now. I am worried that Tragodia might be the slow decline of Lucian as over time he becomes more and more like his mentor, because infinity is a long time for someone to become deluded by their current ideals. Also, I am worried that Tragodia will become a deathless black snake type of incident later on. After all, Tallulah, when she received the consciousness of the deathless black snake, did not begin to lose herself for many years after the fact. And based on the fact that after he died, Tragodia was still able to speak to Lucian, I imagine a part of him still lives on through his student. Only time will tell on that front though, and at the very least he still has Miss Christine in his corner, so should the worst outcome come to pass, she will devour him. Moira is probably the standout character for me in this event. I do really love her girlfriend Tippy as well, but that's because I find her character compelling, not because I am fascinated by them. Moira, as you can probably tell, is incredibly mentally unwell. A seemingly ordinary young woman who by a coincidental meeting with Tragodia became a serial killer. In the aftermath of her parents' death, the troop master found her and comforted her, leaving behind a VHS tape of Laura when he left her. From here she would delude herself into believing Laura was her sister, and it was up to her to seek vengeance for her death. Lucian even comments on how the troop master speaks of her in the same way he speaks of him. Her ability to bring about the tragedy the troop master was searching for shouldn't be understated, as if not for Lucian arriving at the plate, everyone on it would be dead now. Thankfully for everyone, Lucian was there. When Moira learned the truth of her delusion, she didn't abandon her sister. Laura saved her, so she continued her quest. In and of itself, that is a fascinating bit of character building, because most people, when their entire worldview shatters, would probably be left reeling and unable to commit to any new path, let alone commit to the same path they were following. Regardless, in so doing, she was able to corner Lucian and force him to use his Originium Arts. Which should not be understated considering that it is literally a instant kill Originium Arts. The fact that Phantom had to use them means that he would have died otherwise, or at least would not have been able to incapacitate Moira. All in all, I would say the Troop Master was right to take an interest in her. Her death was set in stone, but with the use of his arts, Lucian was able to rewrite her story. Yes, she would still be executed, but in the extra 2 months she had to live, she managed to let go of Laura and come to terms with herself, spending her time in the prison making useful items for the other inmates. Tippy even comments on how much happier she seems to be. I suppose getting hit with the singing version of Hollow Purple will do that to someone. I do gotta ask though, what did Moira do to a Hippogriff employee to have them make something like this her story? I was genuinely head in my hands looking at the CG of her crying. I was like, what did this innocent anime girl do to you? She doesn't deserve this. Regardless, fantastic storytelling, and if I wasn't that invested into Moira as a character, I probably wouldn't have had that reaction. And with all that said, that is act or die, and I have an Enfield beta to prepare for, so I am going to leave it here. Shout out to the wonderful members of the factory. You are the delusional young serial killer to my dead actress, ensuring the death of my enemies even after my passing. Y'all, be good people, and I will talk to you in the next one. So like, low-key, Phantom's arts are kinda just stupidly broken. Because it's kinda like cursed speech from JJK, except not entirely reliant on cursed energy. You can't just, I have more cursed energy my way out of being killed by Phantom singing. I mean, Teresa's could definitely do it, but that's just because he would out-aura form Phantom.